Hi everyone, and welcome to Breaking the Cycle to Step Forward podcast with myself, Chris Tuck, and
hello, I'm Beverley Ann. Lovely to be here with you again, Chris.
I know, but remember everyone, we do this from a lived experience point of view, but also from a professional standpoint as well, because we are both professionals, people who work within organisations that help individuals that have gone through some kind of trauma, and our expertise, because of our lived experiences, is all forms of childhood abuse.
Yes, exactly that. And that's why we like to speak from an authentic point of view. So it's an open discussion. So if there's anything that people hear, sometimes it's quite nice to hear, oh, you go through that as well. You feel that, because unless we talk about something, how do we know what's normal and what actually, is that on what scale do I need to start to actually ask help about something? Or sometimes we bury it so deeply that we think, oh, no, I'm okay. And then we hear something. And then a few days later, it's like, oh, actually, now's the time I want to investigate that further personally.
Absolutely. So today we was going to talk about seasons and what that might bring up for victim and survivors, but we've changed our minds. So explain why we've done that, Bev.
Because it was actually me who said about seasons, and I had a reason about speaking about seasons and a personal experience. However, this morning I've been to the dentist. Now I've moved this year, so new dentist, and to some people that's not an issue, but for me it's huge. It takes me a long time to build a relationship with a dentist, but I'm too far away from my own previous dentist. Not only that, even now to talk about it, I can feel my body is working hard to keep me quiet because it is so challenging for me. But it's building up that rapport again with the dentist, with the hygienist. So that's two different people, but also them having an awareness of the impact of trauma. So even though this morning it was a checkup, I had x-rays, I had mouth cancer checkup. She didn't really do a lot, but for me going there, I was really calm, made sure that I was grounded and everything, had what I needed, got in the chair. But it's as soon as I lay back, I can lay back, I do allow things to happen, but the tears start to come out of my eyes. So even now, talking about it, I can really feel it.
Yeah.
And that's with no treatment actually taking place.
So obviously going to the dentist is very triggering for you, and you have to deal with it. Prepare yourself before, prepare yourself afterwards. Well, not prepare, process. And reflect
yes.
back. But the fact that you've had to, you okay?
Oh yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking.
The fact that you've had to go to a new dentist, new hygienist, it's about building the trust with those people all over again, isn't it?
Absolutely. And that also comes from what we were saying earlier. So I had an experience about a year ago where I needed to go to a dentist for toothache in my new area that I'm in. So I went to one that was recommended. Yes, as a professional, absolutely lovely. However, she wasn't necessarily working with nervous patients, or trauma informed was not part of what she offers in her service. And that really showed. It was also at the time when we were still being asked to wear masks all the time. So I was having to breathe anyway, so I couldn't wear a mask. And also for me, on top of going to a new dentist, they were all wearing masks, and I find that particularly triggering myself. There was also sit there. I'm not saying they were doing anything wrong, but for me, being in that heightened and alert stage, there was nothing to reassure me, and I wasn't allowed to have anyone with me. I'm proud to say today I did it on my own, and that's huge for me to do it on my own, and even to come out on my own. And I walked home, so I'm only about 10 minutes, and it's a lovely walk, and it was lovely to be able to do that. And so the adult part of me now, and with all the self-care that I do, that is absolutely huge. That I didn't pass out as I sat back up in the chair. I was shaky. I did have water, and we talked, but to come home on my own was huge. So that's why today I've made sure that professionally there's nothing else in my diary, and today is about checking in with myself, grounding myself, and just keep reassuring. But this is something that has been going on for years, and one of the things that so I've had lots of dental treatment from a young child. So at the age of 3, I had my first tooth taken out, and that comes from my parents being neglectful at that time. And then when I went into children's home, the great thing was that they gave us regular dental treatment. However, the impact of neglect and the trauma and everything else was that when I was going to the dentist, I was having to have teeth removed. So I had 8 teeth in total as a child removed individually, but I was waking up with a gas. So the trauma itself from each visit, I was going for the right reason. And that's the trauma response that my body is trying to keep me safe. But in addition, the fact that I'm laying down flat, the fact that I'm unable to get up, although we now have an agreement that they will let me sit up every so often. Something that the dentist said today, which was lovely, she's actually got a different chair. So the chair doesn't have any sides on it, so that when you lay down, you actually, and she pointed this out, which was so nice, you can actually go to the side and get off if you want to. You're not shut in. And it's all those different things. And that made a difference, because obviously being a survivor of sexual abuse and freezing and not feeling that you could get out, again, that's another layer. That's where it becomes layered in the response.
I think victim survivors get this, but those out there that have not gone through the trauma, and thank God they haven't, but haven't gone through the trauma of childhood abuse, they might not actually get it. And it's the fact that when you're going through any kind of abuse, you're disempowered. You can't just get out, you can't just get away because of the situation that you're in. And I'm not going to go into any details, but it's the situation that you find yourself in. You can't answer back, you can't do this, you can't do that. So it's very, very disempowering. So obviously you carry that through with you to any kind of setting, like you've just explained, like the dentist, but it's other health professional settings as well, where any victim survivor can be triggered. So we're just going to touch upon other things like cervical smears, other health checkups, having a baby. We spoke about that a lot in our pregnancy and childbirth videos, didn't we? But it's just to bring awareness of all of that we can find challenging, but then some victim survivors don't find it challenging.
No.
But in the main, I haven't come across one victim survivor that I know that doesn't find any kind of checkup or invasion into their private space, or being told what to do about their own body autonomy, who wouldn't find any of that triggering. I don't know anybody.
Yeah. And this is why we wanted to speak about it. So now I'm on something safe. You can, I've got my voice back. So this is why we wanted to speak about it, because unless we're able to share these stories, I used to think that I was the only grown up going to the dentist that would cry. And I'm not actually crying, it's the tears coming out. I can't stop them. Whereas it's only through having conversations with other people, it's like, oh, going for a smear. I mean, I don't know about you, but when a male doctor walks in the room, and I can't say I enjoy it when a woman doctor walks in either, in all fairness. I find it invasive. But there's also that for me, I don't know about you, Chris, it's things being written down about you. It's that, in a way, judgment. It's that someone in authority who's writing things down to you about you, and it's like, is this true?
I haven't felt that myself. Maybe I should, but I've not felt that myself, as in the writing. I just thought, well, just make sure it's accurate, because we all know that when we've accessed our records, that, as you pointed out, it's like, is it accurate? Is it truthful? How they see things is not how we see things. So yeah, carry on.
Yeah, well, no, I don't want to overtake the session because it's about us having a conversation.
Yeah.
But, you know, and that's where I've actually been watching Brené Brown quite a bit this week in preparation for today, because some of this was about the vulnerability that we feel when we're in any of those environments.
Yeah.
Jinx.
And situations. Yeah.
Yes. And it's also about having that courage to be vulnerable, because the message that's going through neurologically in our body's like, well, you're feeling vulnerable. Are you safe?
Mm-hmm.
And actually, it's that checking in, which is scary.
Yeah.
That checking in, well, actually, yes, I am safe and I'm doing this. But even though you're telling yourself you're safe, it's being able to look after yourself afterwards. Because when we say about checking in and changing those messages, it can sound sometimes like, yeah, well, I've tried that loads of times and it doesn't work. And that's why having these conversations is great, because our bodies in any of those environments feels unsafe for whatever reason. We don't always know why.
But that is why we need to trust the people that we're being vulnerable with, so that we can feel safe and that we can have these often life-saving checkups for many people. Yeah.
But it's
and that's
building.
why it's important. But if you're going to get a professional that's going to rush through the appointment, that's going to be dominant in the appointment, that's going to be condescending, or I'm God, that doesn't sit well with victims and survivors on a subconscious level, not even on a conscious level. You can feel that vibe and you're going to go, whoa, actually, no, you're not for me, and you're not doing nothing. Walk out, you know what I mean? And that's happened a few times with myself when I'm like, right, this ain't safe for me to go there. I can't share. And this is why many victims and survivors, even if they go to their GP and they want to share what's going on for them, they know what's causing their symptoms is trauma from childhood abuse. If that openness is not there on a subconscious level, they ain't going to be able to do it.
Absolutely. And when we talk about trauma-informed practice, and we see lots of professionals saying that I'm doing this trauma-informed, I need to put something into place, the one thing that frustrates me is, let's do fundamental things about, how about looking people in the eye? You know, if I walk into the room for any of these appointments and they can't even look me in the eye, and they can't even smile and say hello, or even if you say, oh, good morning, you barely get a response back. It's like, and you now want me to trust you?
Yeah.
It's like
they can't even give you the time of day with simple pleasantries. How are you gonna even open up to these people?
Yeah. And that's not saying that any of them, I appreciate they're busy, etc. But that is the starting point that I'm looking for to communicate with this person. And I'm actually like a child looking at you, at your face, because I'm trying to make that instant judgment. Am I safe with you? Are you a safe person?
Yep, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
And this is why, if someone an organization wants to be properly trauma informed, they need to know this stuff. They can't be rushing anyone through anything because of all of this stuff that is going on in the background. They don't know it, but we do.
Absolutely. But also body language.
Yeah.
You know, don't keep looking at the clock. No. Yes. The side, you know, if something isn't how they want it to look, you know, like the dentist, you know, I do have periodontic issues with my gums. So to some dentists, it's not good. but ask me about what I've done, because actually it's a huge improvement to what it was.
Yeah.
But when somebody's tutting or like huffing and puffing, it can only be the tiniest nuance. I've got it. We're on hyper alert. We've checked that already.
Yeah.
And
sorry,
I was going to say, and if that person feels uncomfortable and they're not sure, then have someone else in the room.
Yeah.
But explain.
Yeah. And, you know, I've shared in some of the videos that we've done already that I am able now to have pre-conversations with health professionals. If, for example, I'm having the smear or I'm having an operation, and I'm able to say, I am a survivor. This is how I get impacted. Please, can you do this? Don't do this, because then I remain safe. I then trust you, and then you can get on and do your job. But if you don't do that, I will become triggered and I may walk out, because I need to know exactly. You nailed it on the head. When you're vulnerable, you need to be feeling safe. And you're going to, in most health appointments, you're going to be in a vulnerable situation, whether it's mentally vulnerable or physically vulnerable or both. And they need to understand this and realize this. If you're a trauma-informed practice or organization, this is the level you need to go to.
Absolutely. And I remember years ago, so I've had episodes of, since I've been an adult, I say adult, since I've been living on my own, of wanting to overcome this. And it's part of my self-care. So there've been episodes when I've gone to the dentist and I haven't, then I've gone. And I remember when I went to a dentist, and I'd been with them for some time, and my dentist was on holiday, and I turned up and it was another dentist. And it was awful. I couldn't get out of that room quick enough. I couldn't get out. And I went home, and it was the first time ever that I'd given information, because I hadn't. I just thought, it's a dentist. I thought I was the only one. I was feeling shameful, guilty. And I wrote this letter and said about what had happened. And actually, they were such a good practice. Do you know, because I was never going to go back. That was it. And I put, I'm not coming back. But whoever picked up that letter was absolutely amazing, because she wrote a letter back and said, we are really sorry you've experienced that. We'd like to understand more. Can we have a conversation with you? We're not going to make you do anything. And they did. And after that, I ended up going back more. And they were lovely to be. Like, I'm not saying it was a pleasure.
No, dental work is never pleasant. But
I went back regularly and built up that trust, and that was great, because I felt heard. Whereas now, like you said, to be able to go into a practitioner and even have it written down, that's a great tool.
Verbalize, written,
But we've come this far. We can now verbalize for ourselves.
Yeah. But I think it's really important that you need to, because these health professionals, they're not mind readers. They are overworked. They have only got a certain amount of time for your appointment. But if they want to get the best out of you and give you the best treatment, then there needs to be this understanding and a work around your needs and your concerns. There just has to be.
Yes, absolutely. And this is, I think you put it in eloquently there, because it's not necessarily each practitioner's fault at times, but it's about asking some of the story, not all of the story. They don't need to know everything, but be aware. You can see by my body language at times, or any of your other people sitting in front of you, that something's not right. So how can you reassure?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so what can people practically do to help themselves in any health appointments that they may have coming up? So we've already touched upon it, but what would you advise?
Well, for me, going to a new practice, start there. Going to new practice, the first thing I look for, and I've got to register at new doctors, and I'm currently looking, is I want a trauma-informed practice. I want to have a look on the website and see if they mention anything about nervousness or trauma. I also want to see if they're approachable, because if they're not approachable when I'm researching, then I'm not going to go. So these are little tips that I put in place. Then when I register, which I did with my dentist, I'm about to do with my doctor, I will then speak and say, I'd like to register with you. This is some of my some of the things that I feel that I need. Could you advise me which doctor would be the best one?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even ask to see the practice manager. You can do that.
Yeah, but it's just finding that person that does want to like understand and help. We're not asking anyone to bend over backwards. We're not asking anyone to, like, you know, give a special treatment or anything like that. It's just be aware, because there are many victim survivors that don't go to any appointments just because, you know. I know quite a few women survivors that have chosen not to get pregnant and have children because of the whole situation, you know, and it's heartbreaking. And I know we're talking from a women's perspective, but I know there must be many men as well that find going for their treatments, you know, checking off their private parts for whatever condition, like cancer, for example, they probably don't like it either, and they've probably got their lived experiences to share.
Absolutely. And the dentist, again, you know, I've spoken to quite a few people over the last year for different reasons. And the number of men I know that, you know, one man I know, he had all his teeth taken out and implants put in so that he doesn't have to go to the dentist.
Wow.
His fear, absolutely. That's how big his fear is. And I said, I actually hear you. I said, if it wasn't for the fact of my gums being like they are, with the impact, I was actually asking that information. So it's only when you start having these conversations, and anyone listening now, you think, wow. And it is okay to ask for, or take someone with you. Take someone with you as well.
Yeah, that calms you down.
Yeah. Another thing that I do is podcasts, or not podcasts, like meditation. So I'll have like one ear in with something that's gentle and calming, so that I'm also listening, but I've got something that I can listen to. And my old dentist, what she used to do in the end, you know, when you're laying back, you're looking up at a ceiling, there's nothing more awful than that as a survivor.
Yeah.
So what she did after a conversation, she put pictures up on the ceiling. Wonderful.
Amazing. Yeah.
It's
so
as simple as that.
Things,
simple.
Yeah. So for me, as I've shared before, it is because I'm quite okay in verbalizing my needs and what would trigger me, what won't. And I'm like a bit like you, I get triggered by this being covered up, because I read people. I didn't realize how much I read people's faces until everybody started masking up, and seeing people with masks on, they're unsafe for me. I find it really, unless I know the person, I find it really difficult to even acknowledge them, my own stuff, but it's there, it's reality. And I also, if I do know the person, I'm like, if I can't read your lips, even though I'm not deaf, if I can't read your lips, I can't understand what you're saying, because I read the whole face, the body language, everything as part of the conversation. And I think people need to understand that and acknowledge that. And I think that insight is just being either not being understood or being completely ignored at the moment.
It's, I think, a bit of both, because that is a normal human way of communicating, is being able to look at each other's face. Now, obviously, in some different parts of the world, you don't look at each other in the eye.
Of course,
there are some things that we have to consider there. But you know, when you think of us as babies, the first thing a baby does to connect with another person is to touch a face. It's the first thing babies do. We like to be able to, it's how we read the face. And also, we can't see if you're smiling or not just from your eyes. And that's why when we're watching somebody, when they smile, it makes us relax. You know, when you know, when you're walking along the road, you smile at someone, it's very rare that person won't smile back. It's the absolute basis of communication. So when we cover that up, we're taking away half the communication. So that's really common, regardless of whether you've been a survivor or not.
Yeah, but it's also like when you're out and about, even before the mask came in, anytime someone covered up, like, you know, a scarf, or they just had a hoodie on. I wear hoodies all the time, but it's just like I can feel that people are apprehensive if I'm covered up, like, and I am apprehensive and very aware and wary of people that are not sort of like open around their face area, around their head area. And, you know, there was a time when you couldn't go into a bank with anything on whatsoever because it just wasn't allowed. And now, obviously, through masking and winter and when, you know, when everyone's cold, they're going, it's just completely turned on its head. And I just find it really, really triggering.
And that's the thing. That's why we have these conversations, because, you know, absolutely, I hear you. And that's why I didn't like going in the supermarket one time, not because of the people, it's because seeing everyone masked up, I just wanted to get out. I'm sad to say we're already over 30 minutes.
But can I just make one point though? I also do know some victims and survivors that found wearing a mask very comforting.
Yes, absolutely.
So, as equally as we found it quite.
And that's quite common as well. So it's about being aware of both sides, and that's what, you know, that's what we're trying to show, because sometimes, you know, that's that comfort, isn't it? You're snuggling into it, you're in your cocoon,
anonymity, and
keeping safe.
And
keeping
it
safe.
gave some victim survivors anonymity, which they liked, because you know, I'm all shut down, don't speak to me, and some found that really safe. But
isolation isolation is one of the coping mechanisms as well, especially in moments of fear and trauma.
Oh God, there's so much to say, isn't there?
Always. So we've just scratched on the surface, and as we always say, if anybody has got any questions or anything they'd like to add, please add in the comments, you know, email us. Chris, your last thought before you finish.
Just always do right by you, and whatever feels right for you, please do it, and please just be brave enough to share with those health professionals what is going on for you and what you need to stay safe and get that treatment, whatever that looks like for you.
And for me, before we go, I just want to say, I'm actually really proud that I was able to share how vulnerable I was.
Good. And
just a minute ago. Absolutely, because by being able to give it a voice, by being able to do that then and even now, you know, we're human beings. And it's okay.
Yeah, it is okay to express how you feel.
Absolutely.
All right, my lovely. So lovely chatting to you again. And we will catch everybody in the next podcast.
Episode 18. Okay then.
All right then. See you later. Bye. Everyone.